Yes, you read that title correctly. Two of Godzilla's biggest space enemies go head to head in this story, and it's awesome. What's up everyone, James here, and make sure you hit that like button. So Godzilla Rivals is a series of one-shot comics pitting various kaiju from Godzilla's Rogues Gallery against him, or pitting two kaiju from that gallery against each other. This one pits the Crystal King, SpaceGodzilla, versus the three-headed god, King Ghidorah. The battle between these two is incredible. It's not surprising that some of Godzilla's toughest foes are evenly matched and beating each other back. I will let you guys know now, this story doesn't only focus on these two awesome kaiju. There's also a great human story within it. SpaceGodzilla and King Ghidorah's battle ends up being taken into the sea. We're going to cut away from their fight for a moment to focus on this character named Ryuichi and his friend Benton. Don't worry, we're going to return to their epic fight. I promise it's worth the wait. We're saving the best for last. Both Ryuichi and Benton have snuck onto this island where SpaceGodzilla and King Ghidorah's fight is happening, called Musashi Island. Now we don't know where exactly Musashi Island is, but I think it's safe to assume it's an island near Japan, since the island could be named after Musashi Miyamoto, Japan's most famous samurai, and because Ryuichi and Benton come across a projector sign in Japanese set up by the military declaring the island a kaiju disaster zone. The reason why Ryuichi has come to the island, despite it being declared a disaster zone and the two kaiju that are battling each other on it, is because he wants to find his father, who we'll learn is a scientist named Dr. Owari. His friend Benton is just here to help and support him, which is honestly a true friend. Benton tries to warn Ryuichi that his father is most likely dead because the government only does this in extreme situations. For all they know, they could be actively going into a radiation hot zone, or in the best case scenario, everything is dead and they get crushed by a building. Ryuichi points out though that the kaiju have taken their fight to the sea. If they move quickly, they have a chance. As the two traverse further into the island, Benton asks Ryuichi why he is convinced his father is on the island. Now this is where we learn how Musashi Island came to be, because it's an island original to the story and has never appeared before in any Godzilla film, at least to my knowledge. Ryuichi answers that his father and his testing facility are definitely on this island because he remembers his father talking about it for weeks when it appeared, and admits that he has never actually been on the island before. The formation of the island had happened apparently due to a tectonic displacement caused by a kaiju battle. Ryuichi reveals to Benton that he and his father haven't spoken in close to 10 years. Since that's the case, then we can safely assume that the kaiju battle that caused it wasn't SpaceGodzilla and Ghidorah's battle, because no way they've been battling each other for 10 years. Now what exactly was the fallout of Ryuichi and his father's relationship, we're gonna learn in a second here. Because Benton asks Ryuichi if they're going to risk their lives for his father right now. Ryuichi answers, it's complicated. This is when the story transitions to a flashback where we see Ryuichi as a kid and his younger sister watching the news broadcast of King Ghidorah appearing and wreaking havoc, assumingly in Japan. His father, carrying what looks to be some sort of advanced weaponry, asked him to take his sister and get on a train leaving the city and head to his aunt's house in the country. That he would meet them after he finished this important thing he had to do. Ryuichi had done this, but at the train station, Ghidorah attacked. He tried to run away with his sister. However, she was hit with one of Ghidorah's gravity beams, and all that was left of her was her hand Ryuichi was holding onto. It's insane. You just feel really bad for this guy, because that was such a traumatic event as a child he had to endure and has been carrying his whole life. Back in the present day, Ryuichi and Benton end up in the subway station, because that's what Benton theorized Ryuichi's father's facility would be. They discover this refugee camp filled with people who are injured and are left here. This nurse bumps into them asking if they're military, but Ryuichi answers that they're not and that no help is coming for them. She responds, they're coming, and Ryuichi says again, no, I really don't think anyone is coming. She grabs him and has him help her with this guy who's in excruciating pain, telling him to put pressure on his injured area, and says, it doesn't matter if they're coming or not, they're coming, got it? She's basically telling him not to kill this guy's hope, because when you're dying, you don't want to hear that there's no hope. Some people hearing that might give up and stop fighting to live. So Ryuichi says to the guy, yes, they're coming. They're coming very soon. And he begins to break down. Later, he informs the nurse and the medical staff here that the government isn't letting anyone on the island. So the nurse surmises that they're trapped on the island unless the government helps them. Ryuichi agrees and informs them that the government has said that SpaceGodzilla and King Ghidorah should be making landfall in 12 hours. The nurse asks him why he is here, and that's when he shows a photo of his father, asking if she and the medical staff have ever seen him before. They take him to the remnants of the military that's here in the camp. The soldier here is just being a dick, refusing to answer if he's seen or even knows his father or not. The soldier, pointing his gun at him, only responds that he doesn't care and isn't going to help him. His orders are to sit here, protect his cargo, and wait for extraction. Even with a gun to his head, Ryuichi refuses to back down, asking the soldier why he isn't answering the question. That's when his father reveals himself, telling the soldier to stand down. Ryuichi says to his father, "You're alive," and his father replies, "My son, I haven't been alive for a long time." We're going to learn why he feels that way, because this man, like his son, has also had to endure a lot. Just based on his appearance, we can see he's lost an eye, an arm, and we know he's lost his daughter, and then later in the story, we're going to learn that he and Ryuichi's mother had a divorce or something, a falling out, because they're no longer together. Ryuichi tries to talk his father into leaving, but he refuses to leave because his work is too important. Even when Ryuichi points out that when SpaceGodzilla and Ghidorah return to the island, their fight could destroy this facility. His father still refuses because a breakthrough in his research might occur during King Ghidorah's fight with SpaceGodzilla, and that his contract with this company called Aegis isn't up. So this group called Aegis is most likely working in conjunction with the government. Ryuichi gets pissed because his father still refers to Ghidorah as King Ghidorah, when that is the monster who killed his sister. He bashes his father for always being obsessed with kaiju and not caring about them more than he and his sister. Now his father takes him to his lab where we see one of SpaceGodzilla's crystals. His father explains that he discovered a hidden ambient frequency coming from the crystals that could power the eastern seaboard of the United States for 2 years. That the entire world could be energy independent within the decade. Ryuichi asks a very valid question. He says, "Do you really think these American military types are going to give this information away for free?" This is an excellent point because information on infinite energy is something so valuable and so in demand that you would be super skeptical that any group, company, or person would just give that information away for free. Now his dad tries to argue that Aegis isn't a part of the military, that they're a private militia group, but it doesn't make a difference to Ryuichi. He gives up on his dad and kind of sticks the knife in his dad in an emotional sense. He says, "I thought I could talk some sense into you. I thought I could heal this chasm between us, but I was wrong. There's no communicating with you. I would say I hope you die a sad old man, but I know your death will be transpiring imminently." When he begins to walk out of the lab, his father replies, "I think of her every day. I see her little face and hands, and I regret not going with you both to the train station that day. Maybe Ghidorah would have taken me and you two would have each other right now. Maybe you wouldn't be alone in the world and I could be with your mother. Instead, all three of us are alone, and it's my fault." Ryuichi then reveals the real reason why he came to save his dad. He says, "I'm not alone. I have a wife and a son. That's why I came here. To offer you a new chance at life." When his father responds, "It's too late for me," Ryuichi says, "If you have breath to utter those words, it's not too late." At that moment, the ground beneath them shakes and rumbles. Benson comes storming in the lab, telling them that SpaceGodzilla and Ghidorah made landfall ahead of schedule. Ryuichi asks his father one last time if he's coming or staying, and his father answers, "What's my grandson's name?" Ryuichi responds, "I'll tell you once we're off this godforsaken rock." The two monstrous kaiju make it to the island, and their fight becomes a knockdown, drag-out fight. King Ghidorah has its body wrapped around SpaceGodzilla, firing gravity beams in his face. SpaceGodzilla responds by biting the neck of one of its heads. Once free from Ghidorah's grip, he slashes its body with his claws. One of Ghidorah's heads bites a chunk off the back of SpaceGodzilla's neck and then unleashes its gravity beams on him, knocking him into a building. But SpaceGodzilla immediately responds by grabbing that same building and hurls it at Ghidorah, knocking him back. Ryuichi, Dr. Owari, and Benson are running for their freaking lives as the subway is collapsing around them from the kaiju's battle above them. The refugees are running too, trying to escape. The Aegis troops try to prevent Dr. Owari from leaving, but suddenly they are crushed by the collapsing debris. Ryuichi tries to rally the refugees, telling them whoever can walk can join them, but then he realizes the injured refugees are stuck and they aren't going to be able to escape on their own. He hesitates, thinking maybe they should stop and help as many as they can. But at that moment, before he can make a decision, the tunnel collapses even more, and all those people are crushed by the debris. Ryuichi falls into despair when he sees the mangled body parts of the injured refugees. His father shakes him out of it, telling him they have to go. Returning to King Ghidorah's and SpaceGodzilla's fight, don't worry, this isn't going to be Godzilla the 2014 movie. We're not going to be cutting away from this fight again. Ghidorah flaps his wings, creating hurricane-like winds that sends vehicles and debris from the nearby buildings at SpaceGodzilla. He then unleashes electric bolts from the tips of his wings that fries SpaceGodzilla's face. All that does is piss off SpaceGodzilla. He's like, I'm done playing with your ass. He says, domain expansion, crystal prison. He doesn't really say that. That's for my JJK fans. He uses his gravity tornado ability, which is his telekinetic ability that he not only uses to rip the buildings around him and the ground beneath him, but also to grab King Ghidorah, lifting him midair. He then hurls everything at him, buildings, debris, everything. Now, Ryuichi and the company are doing their best to avoid being crushed or trampled by the battling kaiju as they're running along the streets. When Ryuichi sees SpaceGodzilla drop Ghidorah's body from the sky, he stops and stares, and his father is like, we gotta run. Ryuichi says, no, I must see this. He sees the monster who killed his sister being beaten. So of course, he wants to see it die. Once Ghidorah's body slams into the ground and looks seemingly beaten for the moment, SpaceGodzilla roars into the sky, claiming victory. Now, if you thought a story with the name Godzilla in the title wouldn't have him, you are wrong, because something rises from the shore nearby. The king of the monsters, Godzilla, is here. King Ghidorah and SpaceGodzilla continue their fight. Now, King Ghidorah basically gets a second wind here and brings the fight back to SpaceGodzilla. He constricts all his necks around him and biting him while blasting gravity beams into his body. Ryuichi and everyone are somehow avoiding being killed in this chaotic battle, where now Ghidorah has the upper hand in this fight, furthering his constriction around SpaceGodzilla. Until Godzilla shows up, son, gripping one of his heads, slamming it into the ground. Now, if you thought this was going to be a triple threat match, nah, this is where we get the team up of the century. Godzilla and SpaceGodzilla double team King Ghidorah. Godzilla unleashes his atomic breath on Ghidorah, blasting him back, and SpaceGodzilla joins in, firing his Corona beam. They send King Ghidorah's body into the ocean, taking him out. Now, we all know there can only be one king, one left standing. Both Godzillas immediately fire on each other, clashing their beams, and it's amazing. Godzilla gets up close and bites into SpaceGodzilla's neck and rips off his shoulder crystal. SpaceGodzilla responds by slashing his claws at Godzilla's chest and gains the upper hand in the fight, trying to shove Godzilla's face into one of the crystals on the ground. But Godzilla breaks free and fires his atomic breath. The island begins to break apart because, as Dr. Owari points out, the kaiju's battle has compromised the structural integrity of the island. SpaceGodzilla falls into this pit of molten lava, and Godzilla is like, there can be only one. He unleashes his atomic breath on SpaceGodzilla, plunging his body further into the molten lava, and that's the end of him. Godzilla roars into the sky, claiming victory, proving once again why he is the king of the monsters. Luckily for Ryuichi and company, helicopters arrive and they get saved. As they fly away, Ryuichi asks his father what's up with him, and his father just responds that he's happy that his family will soon be united, and that he's happy to be alive with his son. Ryuichi says, "Goro, your grandson's name is Goro." Dr. Owari replies, "I'm thankful to be alive for my grandson, Goro." That's the end of SpaceGodzilla vs. King Ghidorah. Let me know if I should cover any of the other Godzilla Rivals one-shots. If you want more Godzilla content, check out When Godzilla Met the Power Rangers right here. Make sure to subscribe. Other than that, have an awesome day, and always remember every day to go beyond.